What's going on, people? Thanks for tuning in to the 109th edition of the MMA Podcast. We got a lot to break down, as usual. UFC 179 this past weekend, the fight we've been waiting for a long time. The featherweight championship in Jose Aldo and Chad Mendes. Will break down that fight. We'll also break down Phil Davis and Glover Teixeira. Both of those fights are worth breaking down. We also have two fights coming up this weekend. One in Sydney, Australia, headlined by Luke Rockhold and Michael Bisping. The other one in Brazil with Jimmy Manuwa and Shogun, who, as always, a lot to break down. In the MMA news category this week, Ronda vs. Zingano, official for January. An update on Cain Velasquez's injury, and a lot more. Thanks for tuning in. Let's do it.
You're listening to the MMA Podcast.
It is the MMA Podcast, the 109th MMA Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to Lenny Hart for that clip. Thank you to Smoke Serpent and Eddie Bravo for the intro music. And you've already heard our boy Ramsey's at the Aunt Jimmy Show. Ramsey's, what the fuck is going on, son?
Oh, I just heard the temptation, so I thought it was my turn. I'm sorry, Jake, from the MMA Podcast. It's good to be back on once again. You hit the post this time. Last week you had a little bit of problem there, but I didn't call you out on it. But now you did good. You made amends. It's good to be here once again. I am the word on the street on Twitter. That's what I'm best known as. I'm not a person. I'm not actually real. I'm an idea. I'm a force. I'm a movement. I'm a rumor. I'm dust in the wind. I am the word on the street, people. And of course, that's the bottom line. You can take that to the bank. Word to your mother. As long as she's on the street. The Aunt Jimmy Show on Twitter, people. Thank you.
Hell yeah, we also have a buddy of mine. I've been to Vegas with him twice to catch UFC 167, UFC 175, the Tough 19 finale. He is on Twitter at at Westland Eagle AH. He's the Eagle. Alan, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, everybody? Excited to be here. Excited to talk to you guys, and excited to talk about our favorite topic, MMA. What's up?
Yeah, and just a few weeks ago, you broke down your trip to UFC Japan, and I was wondering, has it been easy to get back into the American lifestyle? How long did it take to change your clock back over? Which way flying was worse with jet lag and all of that? Now that you're
Radiation.
A few weeks removed, yeah. Do you glow at night? What the hell's going on with that? You probably have some sort of thyroid issue now, exposed to all that radiation and whatnot.
No, man, it's really crazy. Heard a lot about jet lag and the time difference going back and forth. I lost a whole bunch of time when I went there, and then I gained it all when I came back, and it really didn't affect me either way. Going there, I acclimated really well to the time change and everything, and didn't have any problems sleeping. Everything was as if it was normal. And when I got back, man, it took me like maybe a day, just because it took me about 24 hours to, get home, plane trip, bus, driving back from Houston. So, it was like about 24 hours to get back and get home. And, it really didn't affect me. I was really surprised. But no, I don't glow. I wasn't close to any high radiation areas.
Did you eat any raw fish?
Stayed in Tokyo.
Any sushi?
Yes,
Sushi?
I did eat sushi, man.
You're
and
fucked.
Oh, he's dead, man. It's over.
I'm kicking and screaming, completely healthy. Been bitten by a zombie, still alive. You can't kill me. So I don't know, man. But yeah, I leave the Tokyo time on my phone now, just so I can wake up in the middle of the night
Gay.
sometimes and think that I'm still in Tokyo.
That's the gayest shit I've ever heard. Man, I was gonna ask you another question, but that just completely threw me off. Yeah, the sushi over there, is it really better? What did you get?
What?
I'm asking him about this Japanese sushi, son.
Oh yeah.
You mean he was talking about stuff being gay, like that boil in between his legs?
Hell yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, the sushi it was pretty much the same. They had like a different variety of stuff that you could buy just like in the regular grocery store there that you can't buy here at the grocery store that you can pretty much only get at sushi restaurants, like the fish eggs. I don't know what it's called, but it's the little red fish eggs, and I ended up getting that. It was really good, but nothing special. It had like the sashimi, and then it had a whole bunch of different rolls. I don't even know what they all were, but it wasn't any really different, but it was readily available. It was readily available at any Circle K or any convenience store. Every convenience store has sushi.
the red sushi eggs he's talking about
Word.
are the roe. By the way,
If you are listening live and want to call in with any MMA or sushi related topics, the phone number is 213-457-3380. You can Skype us at the MMA Podcast, or if you don't feel like talking, you can just tweet us at the MMA Podcast. We are always at the MMApodcast.com. Click the links at the top to follow us on iTunes or YouTube, and of course follow our friends at MMA Mental, and of course Ramsey's at the Word on the Street. He returned last Thursday. It was a fun show, and like I said last week, we got the trifecta of podcasts: the MMA Podcast Tuesday, You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen on Wednesday, and the Word on the Street on Thursday. So enough BS. Let's get straight to it. UFC 179. It was this past Saturday, Rio de Janeiro, and it was a really fun card. Actually, the first card I've had the time to sit down and watch the very first fight all the way till the end. And it was an awesome card. The UFC Fight Pass card, we saw 2 first-round submissions by Tony Martin and Gilbert Burns. The Fox Sports 1 card, we saw a win by Team Alpha Male's Andre Fili defeating Felipe Arantes. Wilson Race defeating Scott Jorgensen via first-round arm triangle choke. Another submission coming in the second round for Jan Cabral over Naoki Katani. And Neil Magny with his 5th win in 2014, defeating William Macario in the third round via TKO. And that dude just turns up the pace every round. Could very well, I believe he tied the record with 5 wins in a year in the modern era, and he would beat it if the UFC schedules him again in 2014, which they very well may do. Give him a shot for 6. The main card, a pretty big upset of Beniel Darush defeating Carlos Diego Ferreira, who was a huge prospect coming out of Brazil, and Darush dominating the fight, winning it 30-27 on all the judges' scorecards. A featherweight fight that was scored very strangely. Darren Elkins over Lucas Martins, a split decision win for Elkins that went 27-30, 30-27, 30-27. So all 3 judges saw the fight 3-0 as far as rounds go, but one of the judges gave it to the loser, which was something you don't see often in the sport. And we'll save the main and co-main event to break down on their own, but the final fight I want to talk about now is Fabio Maldonado taking on Hans Stringer via and he beat Stringer via TKO in the second round. I don't know if anyone ever thinks he'll crack the top 5, but he currently is looking like an excellent gatekeeper with a very, very strong stand-up game in Maldonado. Alan, what'd you make of these, 9 fights? What stood out to you going on down in Rio? Hell yeah.
The one that I was really surprised about was the the Fajeda fight. We're doing that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Carlos Diego Fajeda fight, he's looked really, really sharp in his last couple of fights, but I noticed that he seems a little small at 155 compared to the guys that he's been up against. And I think that's really what Darius was able to use against him was his size. And I think he just wore down on him. But pretty much everything else went the way that I saw it going. The Fili fight, man, with Arantes. I mean, Arantes always comes out there banging, man. That dude's always exciting. Win or lose, I love watching that kid fight. He was on Tough Brazil and Fili, man. Fili's always in there. He's a gamer. And that was my fight of the night. I mean, I know everybody else loved the main event, but there was nothing more exciting than that Andre Fili and Felipe Arantes. Scotty Jorgensen, I don't like him at 125. Wilson Hayes, super strong, flyweight. I mean, the dude's got power, and he's got a couple of losses that I think he could have won. But the young guy, I think he still has time to get polished off. But I figured Scott Jorgensen wasn't going to be able to pull it out against a guy like that because Hayes is just too well rounded and has got way too much power, and his cardio is always there. He's always in there till the third round. So that was pretty much the way I saw it. And then Kotani and Cabral, it was actually closer in the first round than what I thought it was going to be. I thought Kotani was going to get destroyed, but he actually hung in there for the first round. And I thought it was a pretty close round, but that second round, Cabral just put a pace on him and the grappling exchanges, and was able to just wear him down until he got the submission. And then the Darren Elkins fight, man. What can you say? The dude's a grinder, and whether or not you like that style, he goes in there and gets it done. And no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't deny him. And then Neil Magny, man, what the hell? Dude's on a streak. I've been watching him since Tough Live. He lost on that show, and he ended up being the only guy in the semifinals or whatever out of that show that is still in the UFC. So hats off to that dude, man. And I don't have anything to say about Fabio Maldonado because he's Brazilian.
You know what, man?
Oof.
Yeah, God bless you. I agree with what the Eagle just said. Alan broke it down concisely. I agree with every take he had, and I will pick up where he left off because I got a little bit to say about Fabio Maldonado from Brazil. First of all, I got a problem with this guy. Something stinks about his whole resume. He seems like he's a paid jobber to me in the UFC, and I mean that. Look, this guy, I think he got a bonus on Saturday or whatever fucking day it was, Saturday. He beat Hans Stringer, great. This was after Stipe Miocic whooped his ass, and he's lost to not only Glover, but this dude lost to Igor Pokerjack and Kyle Kingsbury. Fabio Maldonado lost 3 fights in a row in the UFC without getting cut. Explain that to me, people. Explain that. It happened. He didn't get cut. Why? He's not a draw. What's going on here?
He is an exciting fighter.
And in Brazil, I think he is somewhat of a draw because the people get behind him. So I kind of have to disagree with that. He's somebody that they can throw on all those Brazil cards.
He lost 3 in a row, man.
All
to
6.
Igor and Kyle Kingsbury.
His last 6 fights have been in Brazil, and he's gone 4-2 in those fights. And one of the losses was a heavyweight bout. The other loss was to Glover.
That's a good point, but Igor, I rest my case. Word on the street.
Hot takes. Moving on, the co-main event, we had Phil Davis taking on one of a past opponent of Fabio's and Glover Teixeira. And Glover, everyone was expecting him to just outstrike Davis. Davis had just lost to Rumble Johnson, and everyone I talked to was saying it was going to be a bad style match, just like the Rumble fight. Glover was going to give it to him. The fight started. I was actually watching it with my roommate, and I said, if Phil Davis wins, it's going to be a really, really boring fight. And it was, but Davis Davis now has a few really impressive wins on his on his record sheet. You have a win against Glover, you have a win against Lyoto, you have a win against Little Nog, a win against Alexander Gustafsson, which currently is probably the biggest one, even though it took place 4.5 years ago at UFC 112. But I don't know, where do you put Davis after this? I'm not sure. He tried talking a bunch of shit before the Rumble fight, and it didn't really work out for him well. I don't know if he's going to go down that route again. I know he was sort of just trying to impress Dana because Dana was very critical of him after he made some, I forget what he said. He said, like, he's got to talk to get a title fight or something. I don't know. But, yeah, it's very interesting. Davis winning this fight via unanimous decision. I'm pulling up now, 30-27 across the board. That's what I thought happened. Just wanted to make sure for the people. But yeah, Davis versus Glover. Where do you put Davis after this? Where do you put Glover after this? Now that he's lost 2 in a row, Alan.
It's really tricky. I thought Phil Davis was going to win. I'm not a big fan of Glover. It's not just because he's Brazilian. I just don't like his style, man. He's just like a Chuck Liddell, basically. He goes in there and he just, he winds up and just tries to throw haymakers. And, that's about all there is to him. I mean, I'm sure he can wrestle and all these other stuff, but he didn't prove it Saturday night. And Phil Davis, hats off to him, man. His striking still looks like an amateur, but it gets the job done. And his pressure, top pressure with the wrestling. I mean, he's able to go in there and just use collegiate wrestling techniques on Glover and just play with them on the ground. It reminded me of Yao versus Allen too, the second round.
I don't even believe that happened.
So
I've never seen any evidence whatsoever of it.
Me neither.
But with Phil Davis, with this win, I don't really know what you do with him because pretty much everybody else is tied up. You have Rumble suspended. He lost a Rumble, and there's not really that many other guys besides the top 2-3 guys that he can fight. And we know Jones and Cormier are going to fight, and Gustafsson's talking about fighting. I don't really know what you do with him. You kind of have to wait. I mean, it would be maybe cool if Gustafsson decided to fight and ended up fighting Phil Davis again in a rematch. I think that kind of fight would work, But, other than that, it's not really not much that you can do except, sit back and wait and see what happens with some of the division. And, with Glover, he's always going to be a top 10 guy, but he's never going to win that title. He's never going to be that guy. He's not well-rounded enough. He doesn't have all the things needed to be a champion in today's age. Maybe 10 years ago during Chuck Liddell's time, I know he got held over, but it just never been a big fan, especially of his style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me tell you something about Phil Davis, people. The Phil Davis Glover fight, I thought, honest opinion, it was a boring fight to me. It makes you think that both of these guys were like vets just duking it out. There's an argument to be made there, but they would tell you that they're in their primes or whatever. They're just getting started. But what it looked like was a vet fight, and it looked like a boring one at that. No finish, no sacrifice on either part, really. They weren't going for blood, trying to kill each other. You can tell these things if you've seen enough fights. If you're looking for the signs, you can read between the lines. So this fight, I'm done. I've always been done with Phil Davis. I'm not going to make it any secret here. I am not a Phil Davis fan. I'm not a believer in him. Yes, he's a great wrestler, a great fighter. He's got a great record, but he is not exciting to me. I do not like watching his fights. I don't really enjoy them. I was hoping Vinny Magalhaes would whoop his ass, but Vinny had a hurt shoulder. That's the word on the street, and that's actually what went down. Otherwise, he would have flattened this guy. Everything would, but you wouldn't even have. I thought Phil Davis was. He's one of these guys. After he fights, he just disappears for a while, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know Phil Davis was still in the UFC. I didn't even know until this fight came on. And even that wasn't enough for me to watch it. I'm glad for him, I guess. He beat Glover. But these guys, man, they put up nothing. This was a stinker. Let's not kid ourselves. Who cares who Phil Davis fights next? He is a gatekeeper. Imagine Phil Davis ever moving a pay-per-view. You can't. Because it's not going to happen. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, Phil Davis. That's not my fault. It's just what happens on the street. And that's the word.
And we'll move on to the main event because I don't really know how to segue out of that. We had Jose Aldo and Chad Mendes fighting for the belt, a rematch of a fight that took place a while back. That was, UFC... Anyone won UFC 142 2.5 years ago. A little bit of controversy around the fight as the champion held the fence when Mendes tried to take him down, and then again to sort of turn himself around to land the knockout blow. And Chad has been on an absolute tear, knocking just about everyone out he's faced since the fight. And finally, he gets the rematch, a fight which I scored 49-47 for Jose Aldo. I feel like the champion won the first, third, and fifth round. I thought the second round was really, really close. I actually scored at 10-10 in the fourth round. I think Chad barely edged out, but I scored that to him. Chad definitely put up one of the best shows we've seen against Aldo, a guy who is, along with John Jones, probably the pound for pound king now. Just about every single ranking I've seen has Jones 1 and Aldo 2, or Aldo 1 and Jones 2, and the guy just has not lost, period, since he joined Zuffa in June 2008, WEC 34. Since then he's gone 15-0. Add another notch, in a guy in Chad who everyone thought going in was the number one guy aside from him at 145. What did you think of the fight? How did you score it? And who next for the champion, Jose Aldo? I think, honestly, I don't know. Alan?
I was with you, man, after watching it. I watched it a second time. I thought that first round was a lot closer up until the very end of the round than a lot of other people. I thought just, with Chad controlling the octagon and doing the damage that he did, he was landing a lot of strikes up until about that last minute. And I think Jose stole the round with the last minute, minute and a half. And then with the, strikes at the end of the bell or, after the bell, whatever you want to say. But pretty much everything else, was lined up with everybody else's scoring. I felt that Jose, won it 3 rounds to 2. Not much that you can say other than like you did already, express that was the best that anybody's ever done against Aldo. Chad went toe to toe with him. I mean, knocked him down. Dude's never been knocked down before. And, it was a crazy fight, but, Jose just, he had that little bit extra, that Mendes just, couldn't account for. And, it showed that, Jose's just more well-rounded fighter. I think they're about the same age. Jose, I think, has been fighting longer than Chad, maybe. But, Chad's grown a lot in the last, couple of years. Who's to say that he can't, grow a little bit more? We can't have like a third fight between the two since it was so close, eventually have a trilogy, maybe in 2 years if Aldo's still the champion and nobody can take the belt from him. But great fight. Really close, I think. But I don't think the judges got it right whenever they gave all but one round to Aldo. But I think the right guy got the win.
Yeah.
Yeah, the judges scored at 49-46 across the board. Ramses?
Aldo Mendez rematch was definitely what you would call a title fight, in that it lived up to the name. I honestly thought this fight was excellent, back and forth. As I did predict officially, it was too fucking close to call. And honestly, it played out that way. Like, no one knew who was the winner up until that fucking bell rang. But once it did, I'll give Jose Aldo credit. Once that bell rang at the end, most people, the majority, were in agreement that Aldo whooped Mendez's ass. Barely. Okay? I don't even know if you can say whooped his ass, because that's not giving Mendez enough credit. He avoided making a mistake this time.
They both whooped each other's ass.
Yeah, they both got the hell beaten out of each other. Aldo's already saying it was his toughest fight. He's probably so broken apart. He'll probably retire after this. I'm calling it right now. But Mendez, I congratulate him. But Aldo's just a little bit bigger, and his fucking strikes were just a little bit more. They were more deadly, man. They were more lethal. Maybe not even powerful, stronger. It was just the way he's throwing it, dude. It's like Mendez is throwing from a position of, I'm a trained fighter, I'm a pro elite MMA fighter working under Dwayne Bane, loaded him with drillers 1,000 times, so I'm gonna give him the 1-2, 1-2, this is that. But Aldo's throwing from, I ain't going back to the fucking favela, bitch.
He's winging it.
Yep, every single strike I'm throwing, man, this is the last one I might ever throw in my entire life. He's connecting, and it hurts. And that's why I liked what I saw, and it was too close to call. It was a no bet, even though I was going to go for Aldo originally. At the end, I got a little shaky, and I was like, it's too close to call. I'm not going to even bet this motherfucker. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would have been puking and pissing and nervous the entire time watching this fight if I had money on the line. Instead, I was entertained. And that's one thing you can benefit from not being a degenerate gambler in these fucking fights. But hats off. I don't care who they fight next. None of this matters. Jake, thank you.
Yeah, I want to ask two things before we get to the news. One, we've heard talk of it a whole lot that the current featherweight champion, Jose Aldo, might move up 10 pounds from 145 to 155. Do you think we see that happen anytime soon in 2015, in 2016? Will it ever happen? And, of course, who should he fight next? The likely candidate is probably Cub Swanson. I think giving Conor one more fight probably means that if Jose is ready to do it, that he'll probably fight Cub again, which they have fought before in the WEC, a fight that lasted, I believe, 8 seconds. Jose just ran out and hit Cub with a flying knee that dropped him. I think it was a double flying knee, caught him with both knees. Brutal knockout. Probably Aldo's finest finish. And Cub, has definitely put himself, now that Chad has lost, as the number one contender at 145. So I think he gets Cub next. As far as Aldo moving up, I don't know. We hear about it a lot. I don't know if it's something Aldo necessarily wants to do, because he's got such a great hold on 145. His body probably wants it, because I hear it's a very hard cut for him to make 145, and that fact alone is one of the biggest reasons why he might move up. But currently there's just such a logjam at lightweight because the current champion, Pettis, hasn't been fighting. So I think that logjam needs to be sorted out a little bit more before the UFC thinks about moving him up again, like they were planning on doing It was either earlier this year or last year. Alan, thoughts on Aldo moving up, and who should he get next before we move on to the news?
Yeah, a lot of different options here. I, I think now that Aldo has beaten Mendez, I mean Aldo's already beaten Edgar. He's already beaten Cub. I know the Cub fight was a long time ago, but I don't see Cub being able to take Aldo's shots. I don't think he has the chin for it. Cub didn't fare that well against Dustin Poirier for the first 2 rounds, or first round and a half, or whatever. It was a close fight up until that 3rd round, and I don't see Cub taking a shot from Jose Aldo and surviving. I think he gets TKO'd again. So I'm not really interested in that fight. But like you said, it's probably what's going to happen next, as long as Cub's able to fend off Frankie Edgar. What I'm hoping for is that Frankie Edgar actually wins that fight. And if he does, I definitely don't think he's going to get a title shot. I definitely think that will fast track Conor McGregor to fighting Aldo. Some other options here are, if Anthony Pettis, if he wins or loses, like you said, there's a logjam at 55, but I think Pettis can make 145, and I still want to see that fight. So, let's say Pettis defends his title maybe 2 times, fights this next fight, beats Melendez, and then wins another fight. We could see Aldo move up after he, fights McGregor and beats him possibly, and there's really nobody left for Aldo. I could see him moving up maybe in 1 or 2 fights, but like you said, there's still business to take care of in both divisions. So, maybe midway through 2015, we might see these guys jump divisions, see Aldo, move up, but I think he's at least got 2 more title fights left.
I'm in agreement. For the time being, Aldo is not going anywhere, man. Honestly, he just proved himself, defended his title, so he's good in his mind, in his manager's mind, I guarantee you. In his mind, he's good for a year. Another year, he just bought himself. But he did prove himself, though. He whooped that ass. He made the weight, which there was a question up in the air about it, but he did it. So in his mind, he's going to convince himself that, hey, all right, I'm still here. I'm still champion. I defended. What reason could he possibly have to switch weight classes for a more difficult fight? Absolutely none. Therefore, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Not until he loses. He's not going anywhere. You'd be a fool to do that as a champion. I'm sorry. You'd be an absolute fool. And that's the bottom line. So who's he going to go up against next? Well, let me just say this. The Cub Swanson thing makes sense. And I honestly hope that Frankie Edgar gets put away. Just that I don't want to see him
Punishment.
hurt. But we all know that, I mean, if you had to put money down right now on the future of Frankie Edgar, his final fate, do you think he's going to end up regaining the belt and being a champion once again and murdering people that are outsizing him? Or do you think we're going to let Frankie Edgar keep competing until we see just how slurry he gets? It's a harsh truth, but I'm putting that question out there. Save Frankie Edgar, # word on the street.
That's a hot take. Speaking of hot takes, we got a lot of news topics to break down, so let's get to it. Let's get to the news. Still waiting on that $10 million lawsuit for jacking the NBC nightly news' theme. But let's get straight to it. Probably the biggest news of the week. It's always big when a championship fight is confirmed, and that's what we got. Ronda Rousey and Kat Zingano confirmed for UFC 182 on January 3rd. The card, which will be headlined by Daniel Cormier and John Jones. Usually the UFC does a New Year's card. Just just because the Saturdays worked out to where Saturday would be right after Christmas, they made it January 3rd. So, yeah, I believe it is at the MGM Grand, and we're going to have 2 title fights. Jones versus DC, and now Rousey versus Cat. 2 of the biggest draws for the UFC. This will probably be their biggest pay-per-view card of 2014, unless they put on something huge in July. But yeah, it is going to be a fun month to be a resident of Las Vegas. You have UFC 182, January 3rd, Jones and Rousey fighting, and January 31st, you're going to have UFC 183 with Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz. What'd you say, Ramses?
Well, you said it's going to be the best card in 2014 unless they do something in July.
2015, yeah, sorry.
All right, I'm just keeping honest here.
Yeah. They're leading the year very strong with a card with both Jon Jones and Ronda Rousey. Both of them, I would say, are the current 2 biggest draws in the sport, maybe aside from Anderson Silva. So I don't know. It is gonna be a fun fight, Alan. As usual, we'll throw it to you first. What are your initial thoughts on the women's bantamweight championship, Rousey versus Zingano?
I think it's gonna be a tough fight, and I think Kat Zingano is not gonna give up. She's got a chin. We know that, but she gets behind in the first round of most of her fights, and getting behind with Ronda Rousey. I mean, I just don't see that going well. She could hang in there, and it'd be like kind of like a Miesha Tate-esque performance where she hangs in there for a couple of rounds and they just like slug it out, and it's an epic war. But man, I wouldn't cross my fingers.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Ronda Rousey versus Kat Zingano finally happening. Really, I'm not even gonna entertain the notion that Ronda Rousey will be defeated because I'm just playing. Not only am I playing the odds, I'm playing just business here. I don't believe. I think the UFC, which is an organization I love and promote, support 100%. Always, I believe in the product, but. Right now they're not in a slump, but they are lacking in star power right now. It's a little bit of a drought here. So Ronda Rousey has herself what I like to call insurance in the business. I don't believe she will lose this fight. I don't believe it's even a question. I think Kat Zingano is a company woman. Trust me, they've taken good care of her just to set this up for the past at least year. Okay? Kat Zingano knows her role by now. That's the word on the street. This is just my opinion. This fight will seem competitive. Both of them have nice, shapely figures at times, depending on what stage of the training they're at. And hopefully the fight will be bloody. I hope that this, it will be a work. Ronda Rousey will win. I just hope that it's entertaining and that they write enough angles and play it out enough, ham it up enough to where we believe it. Because honestly, Ronda, I love her to death, but how many times are we going to buy this? Honestly, what's going on here? Word on the street.
You really think Kat has no chance?
If she goes crazy and like decides to like flip the script and she's like, fuck the UFC, I'm doing this for me and everything I believe in, like, and then like turns the tables, maybe she can take it to Ronda. But Kat Zingano, she's got recently fucked up knees. Ronda's pretty damn tough. Her only hope is like a flash knockout, which, like, honestly, when do you ever see that in a woman's MMA fight? I'm not gonna see. That's the thing. I'm never going to bet. Just a betting man. I'm never gonna put it on Kat Zingano. The Ronda has the odds for a reason, and
Rana trains with men, and she's got a man's chin. Let's just put it that way. She's a tough ass bitch.
Oh, I'm sure they both do. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't have sex with either of these women. Word on the street.
That's a hot take, and we will move on to Cain Velasquez. The news came down a week or two ago that he'd suffered a knee injury in training, forcing him off the big main event title defense against Fabricio Verdum at UFC 180 in Mexico City. Recently he had surgery, and his coach Javier Mendez appeared on our good buddy Ariel Helwani's show, The MMA Hour, and I'll pull some quotes that his coach had to say about Cain's injury. Quote, originally he had a slight tear in the meniscus, but he was fine. He was training, he was doing everything necessary for the fight, everything was fine. The fight was going to go on. He was having great sparring sessions, and then he was working on sprawling drills, and it was a little slippery. As he went to the sprawl, he kind of went one way, and his body went the other way, and the next thing I know, I hear a yelp, and I thought, oh crap. So the combination of the MCL and the slight tear in the meniscus was just that kind of a little much. I guess he had surgery just a couple of days ago. His coach saying, quote, the surgery went well, but there was more damage than anticipated, which didn't make sense to me because he's so freaking tough. If Cain says, ow, it must be a lot worse than he's making it out to be because the guy can take pain like I've never seen. So when it turned out that his MCL was worse, they put 2 anchors on it. It turns out he'll be out a little bit longer than anticipated. He said Velasquez is on crutches right now, 2 weeks on crutches, and then he'll be on the knee brace, I believe, 6 weeks. So if you count all that, you can't figure out the numbers. Which is sort of an odd quote. But I think they're aiming for March or April for his comeback. So I guess we're hoping that the winner of Velasquez and Hunt won't need to fight again between now and early spring when Cain can come back. Alan, should the winner of Hunt versus Verdum fight one more time, and what do you think about Cain's injury? I don't know if you have any experience with knee injuries. I know you've gotten almost just about every injury under the sun, but this doesn't sound like good news for the heavyweight champ.
Yeah, never had any issues with knees before, thank God. But like he was saying, the sprawl drills, dude, wrestling is where I'm telling you 95% of these guys' injuries come from, because wrestling is the most grueling thing that you will do in this sport. It is a mind fuck. But no, I don't anticipate whoever wins this fight having to fight again, unless Cain's just like out for a whole year, which, very well could possibly be the case, with them saying it's as bad as it is. The doctor could very well, in a couple of weeks, whenever he goes back to get reevaluated, be like, hey, it's not healing the right way. We're going to have to, hold you out a little bit longer, and, just to be safe. And, to be honest, rather safe than sorry with your, number one heavyweight. It sucks that, you had a whole event built around him and around his Mexican heritage. But it just depends on him whether or not Hunt or Verdum. And let's be honest, it's probably going to be Verdum, whether or not they fight in between now and whenever, they fight again for the belt.
Let me wow. Let me tell you a little story here about Cain Velasquez, all right? I was just recently at the Four Seasons Hotel here downtown. I was just in the bar lounge area, just having cocktails with friends. I decided to hop on the piano, just play a little lounge music with the people. I do that from time to time. Anyway, just having a good night, cocktails, this and that. I'm playing the piano, and I overhear Cain Velasquez's doctors just in the table. They're having drinks after work. They're talking, they're laughing, they're calling him Pain Velasquez. And I'm just giggling there, just playing November Rain on the keys there. I'm just tickling the ivories at the old Four Seasons Hotel, downtown Texas, Austin. But my point is, if even his doctors are making fun of his condition and how beat up he is, I mean, there's a reason that the UFC just said, fuck this, fuck UFC Mexico. We're immediately not even waiting to see if he gets better in time. That's it. Your title's gone, Cain. We've had enough. UFC Mexico, we're going to basically scrap that in the dirt. We're even letting Diego and his recent stupid excuse go. It's over. All right. All right. That's where they stand. They cut Cain Velasquez. So you're telling me, Jake, you want to know what's next for him, or is he going to come back, or what the hell's going? Nobody cares anymore, not even the UFC. He has been effectively destroyed. It doesn't matter if he rehabs or comes back in 3 months. Who's he going to fight? Who gives a shit? He's at the bottom of the pile, and that's the sad truth about the business. I'm not trying to disparage the man. I'm just telling you what I know. And my analysis of this is that it does not matter what Cain goes from, discussing his future. Nobody cares. The UFC doesn't care. The only people that care are Cain Velasquez, his immediate family, and whoever was under his direct employment that is now missing a paycheck because he's no longer champion. Other than that, nobody cares. That's what happens when you get injured and you play the game too hard. You make mistakes, and yes, it's not Cain's fault. But you got to be real. He can't defend his title enough. You got to keep the money rolling. And wow, they even forfeited UFC Mexico. That was a surprise. And that just tells you how fucked up Cain probably really is.
And that's the word on the street. People, if you like these hot takes, you better be listening on Thursday night to the Word on the Street podcast. Do we have any rumors for guests on this Thursday show, Ramses?
I might have. Shit, man. Damn, I didn't even know you were going to ask me, Jake.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, what about O.J. Simpson?
Chael's going to have GSP tomorrow. Can you step it up from him?
I don't know if I can top George St. Pierre on the Chael Sonnen podcast tomorrow, Wednesday. By the way, people, podcast.
I think it's already out now. I believe it's out.
It might be. Shit.
If you're listening live here, I'll check.
Podcast1.com. You check out Chael Sonnen's new podcast. It's called You're Welcome, but it's Chael Sonnen's podcast. You can check that out online or on iTunes, people. Just search it on iTunes. You're Welcome, Chael Sonnen. You'll see he's already had on top-notch guests tomorrow, today, maybe even now. We're checking. George St. Pierre is going to be on Chael Sonnen's podcast. So it's coming up in a couple hours, people.
God,
I was going to say,
my hopes up.
If it was up, we're just going to scrap it now. We're going to pull the cord out. This shit is over. I don't want anyone listening to this live, but I guess it's not up yet, so we'll keep rolling. If you are listening live, it says we've got a few viewers. You can call us up, 213-457-3380, or tweet us at the MMA Podcast. Let us know what you think. But now it's time for the part of the show where we don't talk any MMA. It's the 10 solid seconds of sports. Let's do it. The Royals going up 3-2 in Game 5. A huge win over the Giants. The NHL season started. The NBA season started tonight. The Cowboys lost. But while Romo is crushed. And that was the sound of Romo's back just getting crushed on Monday Night Football. But I'm going over the 10 seconds. We got to keep it to MMA. People, let's talk the Irishman. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear any more talk about him. But Conor McGregor, he is really sort of since Chael has backed out of fighting and isn't doing any more work for Fox. Conor, I don't want to say has filled that void because it's a different sort of trash talker, but it's really nice, really refreshing to see a new guy who honestly has just as much just talking skills as our good friend Chael Sonnen. Conor was probably stole the show at UFC 178. He stole the show at UFC 179 as the UFC flied him down. flew him down there. UFC 180. He was asking for a fight against Diego. The guy has just been all over the place, and his next fight has been confirmed against Dennis Seaver, January 18th in Boston. They love him in Boston. This seems like an obvious tune-up fight against a non-wrestler, like friend of the show Ben Askren tweeted. Conor really didn't take kindly to that, I think, calling him a pube head, but I don't know. Ben made a lot of sense to me, and I think most MMA fans. This is just an obvious tune-up fight. Give him one more fight before he fights for a title, and it's versus a guy who really doesn't threaten him much at all in the wrestling game. What do you make of it? Does Dennis Seaver have a chance this coming January in Boston? Alan?
Man, to be honest, it's MMA. Everybody's always got a chance. Dennis Seaver, I mean, he doesn't match up real well with Conor. I think it's going to be an exciting fight, though, for however long it lasts. I don't think it's going to last very long, but I think it will be exciting. The two will trade shots until Conor, eventually gets that knockout blow. But anybody's got a shot, man. It's MMA, but I expect Conor to win. The fight doesn't make sense, but obviously we know why they're doing it. It's to give the champion some time to heal, because Chad Mendes beat the shit out of Jose Aldo, and he probably won't be ready till July at least. So, it's give Conor some tune-up fights. I mean, fuck, I was in Boston the last time that Conor fought there on the goddamn undercard, and it was fucking insane. That's all I can say. It was crazy. So, he's headlining a card this time in Boston. It's going to be even more fucking insane. So I think it's just all, builds into the whole character of Conor, the UFC building him up as a contender, making money off of his character and his personality. He's going to be able to talk so much more about, Dennis Seaver, because we all know that Dennis Seaver is not a real vocal guy. So Conor's going to be able to go out there and talk trash, and, he's going to have all these, spots that he's going to be able to use, so it's just part of the scheme, part of, building him and making money. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm tempted to go, but I'm not that's not worthy of my travel. But yeah, tune-up fight.
I agree, man. I'm tired of this leprechaun already, and I'm not the first to say it, but I'll be vocal about it, man. I don't believe the hype. I've never bought Conor McGregor for 1 second. You can look up my past history, everything I've ever said. I'm not buying it. Who is this guy actually? Come on, man. It's not there yet. He's already rolling around like a champion. He's tweeting out fake pictures of him taking jets and expensive cars. Yeah, where was the follow-up pic of you actually in the jet, Conor? I'm calling you out. I got my
So
pics.
you think he went into the jet? You think he took a picture of himself going into a jet and then actually got out of the jet and went to like a terminal and flew coach?
Look, man, I'm saying he wasn't even at any sort of airport at all. All right, this guy's taking the fucking UFC bus back to wherever he's from. I don't care. All right, this picture of a plane all fueled up, a jet next to his limousine, like hardcore car. Like, no. Where were the pictures of him actually sitting in his fucking seat in this expensive private jet? Where are those pictures, Conor McGregor? That's why I think his whole thing's hype. I don't believe in him as a fighter. I've never seen him do anything impressive to me. Dustin Poirier, we all knew what his job was. We all know. Dennis Seaver, oh, Jesus, man. If I couldn't even have come up with a better jobber than Dennis Seaver for Conor on this one. Where did they pull this shit out of their ass from? It's obvious what they're doing here. I'm not going to insult anybody. It's obvious what the UFC is doing here, and I don't blame them. It's good business. You build up your stars. They're in a slump, all right? But I'm not gonna lie and pretend like I'm buying this hype. I know what they're doing. I'm seeing Conor McGregor be built up in front of our eyes, and I just have to say, I don't buy it, but I'll watch it. And I guess since I will be paying, if he ever goes pay per view, I will buy it. That's the damnedest part, but that is the word on the street. And the bottom line.
It's the word on the street. It's the bottom line. Another thing I wanted to talk about tonight, Anderson Silva, we all knew he had, I believe, 6 fights left on his contract with the UFC. He extends it out to 15 fights. The guy now has a contract with the UFC until he fights with the organization another 15 times. Do you think he's actually going to have 15 more fights? I believe currently he's at 18 fights with the UFC, but he's been with the UFC for almost a decade. The guy's getting older. He's I believe 38. I see this more as a move by the UFC to keep him from going and fighting in another place down the road, because technically until he fights 15 more times for the UFC, he can't fight for Bellator, he can't fight for World Series of Fighting, and some of these guys, these legends, if you want to call them that, Tito, Rampage, both of them going over to Bellator, I think that kind of rubs Zuffa the wrong way, and I see this more as a defensive move to keep them from going to another organization down the road. What are your thoughts on this giant deal for a guy who I don't think has 15 fights left in him?
Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck.
Hell yeah.
I guess that was it from the Eagle. Yeah, this whole thing, he is not going to fight 50 more times. I doubt he fights 3 more times. Anderson Silva does completely suck now. I'll give you that, Eagle. But yeah, this 15 fight contract, you're on the right track, Jake. This is nothing more than the UFC actually buying out the Anderson Silva brand and name and exclusive rights to his in real life fight character. All right, that's all it is. It's a down payment on him not ending up fighting Rampage and Tito in the all out grudge match on TNA on Spike or Viacom or whatever the fuck. This is their insurance here. They paid him off because he did a good job. He rehabbed as fast as possible and he's coming back. And he's fighting a loose cannon, Nick Diaz. Although Nick Diaz has jobbed before for the UFC, he will do so again. That's, like I said, I don't pull any fucking punches here. I'm sorry. That's the truth. That's the way it happened. But they're all great fighters. I love it all. I respect the sport. I respect everything about what it takes to be a mixed martial artist and compete at this level. I don't care if it's worked or not. If you made it to the top and you paid the iron price, so to speak. So I respect them. But Anderson Silva's 15 fight deal, don't believe it for 1 minute. How many fights has he had in the UFC? 15?
18.
Well, he's gonna
18, I believe.
Right, so he's going to double the length of his career at the age of 4. Come on, people. 40 years old. Read between the lines. They bought the rights to the name Anderson Silva. He has completely sold out his name.
Yep.
But this is a good indicator on the Nick Diaz shit. Because Anderson Silva, basically with this deal, he wrote himself that fuck you money. He's got a paycheck now. He knows that he can retire at any second now and still be okay for the rest of his life. So, who's going to win the Nick Diaz fight now? It's not so clear anymore. Throwing that up in the air, the odds are going to change. Mark my words, because I am not a person. I am the word on the street. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ramses. I think we have one more topic to get to, but before that, we have one of my favorite segments, which is simply called Blocked, where I just read a tweet of somebody who sent me a very hateful message, and I blocked them. This week on Blocked, this actually starts with me tweeting Jason Miller saying this is exactly a week ago, saying we're about to go live with our podcast in 10 minutes. Call us up and give us a recap of what happened. I was kind of banking on, or kind of hoping that Mayhem would just be bored and bored enough to call us up and bullshit with the MMA podcast. I didn't get a tweet back from Mayhem, but I did get a tweet back from someone named Emperor Mustafa. I'm not going to give away his Twitter handle, but the tweet was, quote, at the MMA podcast, at Mayhem Miller. I'll give you a recap of me inserting my cock into your ass. And then in all caps, nigger! Exclamation point.
All caps.
Man, I've come across a lot of funky cats on Twitter. Moving on, speaking of funky cats, our friend Mad Samurai, I tweeted out topics we should cover tonight. We had the mailbag open, and we got a question in from the Samurai. Are aliens really evolved humans from millions of years in the future who have come back in time to save the planet? Alan, Ramses, discuss.
What the actual fuck?
Ramses, do you think that aliens are really evolved humans from millions of years in the future who've come back in time to save the planet?
This is more likely than the fact that they are actually traveling from long distances across the galaxies and space to see us. They might be people from the future coming back to watch us, except this is what bugs me about it when I've thought about this numerous times. I've actually written like an extended novel about this scenario happening on Earth, where there's a mystery. We find out there's a mystery object watching us from space. It's invisible. They don't know we're watching. I wrote a whole scenario out. It's a good book. It'll never be released. But what I'm saying is, it could be people from the future, except the one problem I have with that theory is that obviously if they were us, advanced human beings from the future coming back to just watch us, and that's why people see UFOs and this and that. Every time there was a documented sighting of a UFO, that knowledge would reach their future. They would know that they got caught. And therefore, that violation would never be allowed to happen in the first place. So therefore, also on top of that, nobody's ever seen conclusive, non-blurry UFO footage. So there is no proof that people are even watching us from the
Area
future
51,
that I've seen.
bro.
Right, there's no proof that people from the future are watching us that I've ever seen. So if they are, they're doing it discreetly and they're getting away with it the way it should be. Even if they screwed up, they would just fix it. They would never allow it to occur, if that makes sense. And that's the word on the street. That's the bottom line. I am one of the smartest individuals alive on this planet. Thank you.
Ramses, I think you're an alien, and I'm calling you out. You're just trying to cover for him.
Thank you, Eagle.
We have gotten a lot of tweets saying that he is a CIA disinformation agent. I've tried to confirm or get that refuted many times, but the man lives a very secretive life. We try and get him to come to Las Vegas. He reveals
My God,
I
can't even get him to come to UFC in Austin, Jake.
Very few facts about his real personal life. He's
My
a true
IQ,
man of mystery.
I'll tell you this, my IQ fluctuates. It's odd. According to Dan Henderson's weight. It's weird. Word on the street.
My God. Last topic before we get to this weekend's UFC cards and our beatdown of the month. Joe Rogan saying he would not mind a fight between Ronda Rousey and Bryan Caraway. I disagree with that. I think it's a very slippery slope. As much as I would love to see Ronda snap Bryan's arm off, which I think would actually happen, It's just a slippery slope. And if you want to have a guy and a gal play some tennis against one another like Billie Jean King, sure, that's one thing. MMA is a different sport. It's a slippery slope that I really don't want to see us travel down. What do you all think?
I'm all for the beatdown. Brian Caraway was trying to
God.
look at my. He was trying to look at my penis in Japan in the
That's
hotel, and that made me very uncomfortable. It wasn't showing my dick walking around naked in a freaking hot sauna bathroom, whatever.
Did he lick his lips?
Yes, and he was just like staring at me with those beady eyes. No other guy was doing that gay shit. And
did he get down really close and like look at it from a couple inches away?
He was already eye level with my penis because he was sitting in the hot tub when I walked in. And yeah, I felt violated. If I wouldn't have been there representing Korean, no. If I wouldn't have been there representing Korean top team, I would have drowned him in the hot tub and murdered him and then took Misha Tate as my own.
Did he touch it?
Did I kill him?
Ramses?
What the fuck, Brian Caraway? Yeah, this guy versus Ronda Rousey. Honestly, this is the one time where I would agree to watch a man fight a woman. I'm not gonna pretend like, oh man, like I would pay money to see this happen because I know Ronda's a big girl. She makes her own fucking decisions and choices. She would probably agree to get in the ring and see if she could whoop this motherfucker's ass. And the one thing I do feel bad about though is that like I've never actually given Brian Caraway a chance, and I feel bad now because like I know that like a great guest and a friend of the show, Robert Follis, MMA coaching legend, is actually coaching and working with Brian Caraway and Misha Tate. And so I felt bad about some of the things I've said lately, knowing what a good guy he was and like how much work he puts in his people. He obviously believes in Brian Caraway. So you know what? I'll give him a little bit of credit, but I would pay money to see this fucking fight. But I do understand why, as Brian Caraway, you can never take this fight because there's absolutely nothing to gain from it.
Yeah, this is a lose-lose.
Yeah, so it's never going to happen, people. And let's be real. That's the word on the street.
This is about as literal of a lose-lose as you can get. Either you literally lose, or you're known as the guy who knocked out a woman in the octagon. Knocked out. I mean, I know she's sort of a bipolar figure, but I think a lot of people would upset if they saw a man just like land a stiff uppercut and drop Ronda Rousey cold on the octagon mat.
Not this guy.
That would not be a very good look for the UFC. And oh my goodness, oh my damn, it's the original co-host of the MMA podcast, Chris Lowe. Chris, what the hell's going on?
It's your boy. Hey guys.
It's your boy.
So,
What did you think of UFC 179, man?
I really enjoyed the prelims, and I thought the main event was absolutely fantastic. Everything else on the main card I thought was dog shit.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Mendez versus Aldo, but it was a little rough watching it with my roommates who aren't big fans of the sport and trying to get them really pumped up for Davis versus Glover. Like, oh, Glover's gonna knock him out. This is a big fight at 205, etc., etc. And it's just a horrible, boring fight. But yeah, you missed a lot of shit. We broke down. Rousey versus Caraway. Which one does she have a better chance of beating?
I think she definitely has a better chance at beating Kat. I mean, Kat, I'll give all due credit. She's fantastic. But, I mean, let's be real here. Caraway is, I mean, to most people's knowledge, a man. It is questionable, but due to his birth record, I'm pretty sure he's a dude.
He looked at Alan's penis in Japan.
I heard about that, man.
Fancy.
I was actually at an In-N-Out on a break from work when he was telling that story. I'm sitting there laughing to myself, and people were looking at me funny. Yeah, good times.
Did you hear me drop that hard in about 20 minutes ago?
I sure did, man. I
Yeah,
sure did.
I dropped a hard in.
That was really awkward. I can't believe
Talked
you did
about
that.
it for months.
But I am
Too bad
allowed.
you didn't drop an in real life.
Oh my God!
Like you would have done on duty, right? Right, Alan?
Wait, hey, that
He's
we
talking
will
about
edit
the
that
other
out of
guy.
the show. Well, yeah, he's talking about that one.
No, this is the eagle.
I'm allowed to say the N-word as long as I'm quoting someone else. I asked a black person. That is the rule. I'm in the clear. I think we got one more segment before we break down these upcoming fights in Australia and Brazil next weekend. I'll save you for last, Chris, so you can think of someone. But it's a segment we started way back in the day when it was just you and me. It's time for the beatdown of the month. And I'll get it started. As usual, my beatdown of the month for October 2014 was Mike Wilkinson over Nicholas Backstrom. No one thought Mike was going to win it, but not only did he win, huge upset, he finished him. Finished him via TKO. Backstrom didn't even know what happened when the fight was over, didn't know the fight had ended. I'm really excited to see who the UFC gives Wilkinson next, and that's my beatdown. Ramses?
Yeah, I told the guys before we went live on the show that I wasn't even going to lie to you people, and I'm not going to. My beatdown of the month for October. It's a tie between two beatdowns. Max Holloway and Derek Cruikshank both won their fights respectively. Knocked out, killed, annihilated their opponents, but I don't remember it because honestly, I was either tired or I live my life day to day, like I've said, like Rambo. Day to day, just constantly fueled between am I high, am I not? Have I done enough cocaine? Who owes me money? What's next on the collection route? And in between that, I watch UFC fights. I don't remember the Max Holloway or Darren Cruikshank fights, but I know they dominated, and I know I enjoyed it and bet money on them and won money to feed my disgusting habits. So those were my beatdowns of the month, and I make no apologies whatsoever. What do you guys remember? Liars, I didn't even use Google, YouTube, or nothing, Wiki, nothing. Word on the street.
Alan?
Yeah, my beatdown of the month is the hometown hero getting annihilated in the first round in that Nelson versus Story main card. Ilir Latifi getting dusted by Jan Blachowicz. Yeah, didn't see that one coming. That was crazy.
I know this is cheating, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring this one up. It was in late September, but technically it's, I think, within a calendar month. I got to go with my boy Donald Cerrone, chopping down that Bush League Bellator champion, Eddie Alvarez, making him look amateur, and chopping him down, lay down like a dog.
Your boy Donald Cerrone getting the win and doing enough to win Chris a little bit of money, which he's so beautifully gifted to me in the form of this headset, which I am using now. Folks, the one I was using in August, September, and early October was literally falling off of my head. Horrible quality, was uncomfortable as shit. Chris, thank you. Donald Cerrone, thank you. And let's move forward. We have two cards this weekend, one Friday night, one Saturday night. They're both in different countries, but luckily it's going to work out for us. We're going to get them both in prime time, U.S. time. The first one we're going to get Friday night, and that's UFC Fight Night, Rockhold versus Bisping. And then a day later, Saturday night, the 8th, we're going to get a card on Fox Sports 1. The Sydney card is going to be all on Fight Pass, and I believe that's going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern. The main card starts. The Brazil card is going to start at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, and that's going to be on Fox Sports 1. And let's break down the first one first. If you want to look up all the fights on the card, you can, but we're not going to bore you. You've got a few names standing out on the prelim card in Aljamain Sterling Bisping, Chris Clements, Dylan Andrews, Anthony Perosh. But moving up to the main card, we got Soa Palele versus Walt Harris, Robert Whitaker versus Clint Hester, Ross Pearson versus Ally Aquina, and the main event, Luke Rockhold taking on Michael Bisping. Which fights stand out to you, and most importantly, what do you make of this main event between Luke Rockhold, Michael Bisping? Chris, I'll throw to you first.
Well, I think it's a decent card, man. The main card is pretty solid. Yeah. I'm actually really surprised that Wagner Hoka is still around, man. Do you remember that abysmal fight he had with Cerrone back in the day? He was just terrible. He got knocked out unconscious by Jonathan Brookins, who doesn't do that to anyone. So there's that guy. Anthony Perosh,
I think after losing to Brookins, he was cut. Since then, he's gone 4-0, and this is his debut, I guess, in his second stint in the UFC.
Repurposed and repackaged. Coming back. Still going to be shit.
He did choke out Cody McKenzie, which I think all four of us can appreciate.
Yeah, hopefully made him puke up all the beer from the night before. Fucking guy. Yeah, man. Perosh, I will always love that guy for knocking out Vinny, I'm sorry, Ramses. Sorry, buddy, but that was one of my favorites, seeing him get knocked out in 7 seconds. And Dylan Andrews, tough 17 alum. That'll be nice. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Now, were you asking about the main event, or we'll break that down later?
Let's actually save it for later. Let's go around once talking about the fights that stand out for us, and then we'll do one more go around the round table to talk about Rockhold versus Bisping, because this is a fight we really can sink our teeth in.
I got one last thing to say about it before we move on, just because I forgot. Sal Palele, man, that guy was on 11 first-round TKO stoppages. I mean, regardless of the competition, that's a pretty solid record to have. And then, he got kind of just manhandled by Rockhold, who's like a lifelong wrestler, so you can't hate him for that. But I think it was a real gimme fight with Walt Harris, because Walt Harris is about 6'5", 265 pounds, and he got his clock cleaned by Nikita Krylov, who is, he was a 215-pound heavyweight, and he got head kicked and just dropped by that. So
Soa versus Krylov was a barn burner.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The worst fight of 2013. I believe Harris actually stepped in on 10 days' notice. I think he was supposed to fight Daniel Omilanchuk, but I don't know how the fuck to pronounce that guy's last name. But I believe he stepped out very recently. Alan, what is standing out to you aside from Rockhold Bisping? I'm really liking Pearson versus Iaquinta.
Damn, you stole my thunder, son. Yeah, I'm so interested in this fight. Pearson, has had setbacks in his career, but has, looked really well since coming back to 155. He got fucked over with the Diego Sanchez fight. I didn't think he was going to win I don't remember the other fight where he got TKO'd basically, but it was a illegal knee. I think he was going to lose that fight, but, I just think he can dig deeper than Iaquinta. I think Al's much more well-rounded. I think he has more tools. He's able to just do everything. But when it comes down to grittiness, I think Ross Pearson is just really, really tough guy. And, he's got that KO power. I know Al has a little bit of power, but not what Ross Pearson has. I mean, Ross Pearson brings, legitimate one-punch TKO power. So I'm just really excited for that fight. As far as the other fights, Chris said, Soa, I've been a fan of his. I didn't care what anybody else said. The dude had a broken rib when he fought Nikita Krylov, and fought all the way to that third round when he got the KO. The dude, I like watching his fights. He's a heavyweight. They're fun. As long as he's not fighting wrestlers. But other than that, everything else is just pretty much par for the course. It's not anything special, but at least it's MMA, and we're not starved like we were during this last month.
Yeah. This past month was I don't know. We've had a lot of fights in 2014. I don't know if we're just spoiled now, but taking a full 2 weeks off from any UFC events was a little rough. Ramsey's thoughts on the card? Make it long, because I'm about to do some drugs. All legal. This is prescribed to me, folks.
God bless you, man. Jake from the MMA Podcast once again. We are discussing UFC Fight Night, which is taking place on Friday, November 7th. Friday. Rockhold versus Bisping. That's the card we're talking about. But right now we're talking about the, everything besides the main event. There's only, in my opinion, one fight that is actually worth it, that I actually give a shit about, that I'm going to bet money on. It's going down on Fight Pass, by the way, people. The only fight I care about is Clint Hester versus Robert Whittaker. It's on the main card, but it's like not even a co-main event. These people aren't there yet. But trust me, mark my words. Record this shit. Somebody write it down or just remember. All right, this is gonna be like when what have I recently called? 2 weeks ago. On the MMA podcast, on this very show. Caller called in, said, "What's going to happen to Mayhem Miller?" I correctly predicted that he would be arrested, and it happened within hours. Within hours, people. And so I'm saying, mark my words, Robert Whittaker versus Clint Hester on UFC Fight Night, Friday, November 7th, 2014, will be, if not fight of the night, performance of the night, KO of the night, whatever they're calling it these days. This is the one. This is the one that you're going to want to watch. It's going to happen, people. It's going to pay off. I don't even know who I'm going to bet on. Clint Hester was on Team Jones.
Head buster.
That's why I'm
picking Hester.
But he was on Team Jones. That's why I'm hesitant. But at the same time, I don't know. I got to ask Coach Huey. Whatever Coach Huey says, I'll go with it. Robert.
Hey, I think a lot of those guys are friends with Clint, because he was hanging out with like Luke Barnott at UFC 171 and Kelvin there. So I think they're all pretty much a tight knit group.
Yeah, they're all buddies. But I mean, Robert Whittaker, he can whoop some ass, dude. I've been impressed by it. He switches up his technique according to his opponent.
Have chin, I don't think.
Defeated Mike Biggie Rhodes in his last fight.
Yeah, it's just going to be fight of the night, and that's my prediction. I just want to lay it down there and make it official. Anybody listening there, I just did it. Mark it down.
Somebody play the Headbuster song.
The word on the street.
And I'll make a prediction too. If it goes to the judges' scorecard, Robert Whittaker could have home field advantage as far as crowd noise goes. We all know how watching a fight, it's very judged to subjectively score it when thousands of people around you are cheering for every little thing that the hometown fighter does. Also, one thing I did want to make clear but didn't say before, these fights aren't going to happen this weekend. They're going to happen next weekend. It's not going to be Friday the 31st and Saturday the 1st. It's going to be this next weekend, November 7th and 8th, and that's because I'm not sure if there's going to be a podcast next week. Usually I work during the weekends working with Uber while I study for grad school. Usually I work over the weekend, and I might actually be traveling that weekend going to Oklahoma City for Glory 18. Not confirmed yet, but it could very well be in the cards as the MMA podcast. We've been on press row for their last two events. So if I do go to Oklahoma City, sorry, I'm pulling up my schedule and getting tongue-tied, which is going to be next Friday, November 7th in Oklahoma City with Wayne Barrett, who we had on last weekend. I might not be able to do a show next Tuesday because I'm going to have to make up some work hours during that time. But follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter, and we will keep you updated with all of that. Like I said, we're gonna save it for its own topic to sink our teeth in. Luke Rockhold versus Michael Bisping. A lot of MMA fans thought Mike was done after the Tim Kennedy fight, his vision was very suspect, but he looked awesome against Kung Lee, and now he's got a real big test in Luke Rockhold, who's a top 5 guy currently at middleweight. Luke, I believe, is a pretty sizable favorite. I don't have the betting odds in front of me, but Chris, what are your thoughts on this middleweight war between Rockhold and Bisping? I feel like we're going to see a lot of UFC promoted shit talking between the two guys in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I think first off, we can all agree that, the run up to this fight has been nothing short of just interesting and fun.
Did we lose
It's
him?
a hot take.
Hot takes.
Hot take.
Did we lose him? Sounded like he was formulating something and then it just cut off. Yeah, it looks like
pretty conclusive to me.
Hot takes. Alan or Chris, do we
Yes.
have you back on the call? Yeah, we heard the fight's gonna be interesting and fun, and then we cut off. We got about 10 seconds of silence, and Ramses just goes, "Hot take, hot take."
All right, I'm back.
Yeah, start back at the beginning because I think we lost you for most of that.
Oh, all I was going to say about, the lead-up was that we can all admit that at least they're making it interesting.
Yeah.
They're actually selling it. They're, Bisping's doing his thing. Rockhold, there's just a smugness about that guy that I think Bisping used to have, and maybe still have, but at least Bisping's is more endearing. Rockhold just seems like the kind of guy that, would shoulder check you in high school, when you're walking by him. So, I don't really like the guy too much, but as far as their skills matching up, I think Rockhold, man, he's never faced someone like Bisping. That's the problem. He can go 5 rounds. He's gone 5 rounds with Kennedy. He's gone 5 rounds with Souza. So he's been, tested. He's tried and true with 5-round fights. But I just don't think he's faced someone with the kind of, deep water style that Bisping poses. So I think that's going to be real interesting. He's been predicting it's going to be a first-round finish. I can't see how you're going to finish Michael Bisping in the first round unless you're a TRT-fueled Dan Henderson. So I'm kind of leaning towards Rockhold on this one. I think what Bisping does, I think everything he does, Rockhold does better. The only thing I see him matching up even on is wrestling. I think Rockhold has more rangy striking. I think his jiu-jitsu is a lot more offensive. So I got to go with Rockhold on this one.
Which way you leaning, Eagle?
Yeah, kind of like Chris was saying, I just think Rockhold's too much of an athlete. I think both these guys, they're very, very, very skilled. Bisping doesn't have the finishing ability that Rockhold does. Rockhold can catch you with a body kick like he did Philippou and just finish you, put you out. And, Bisping obviously can't do that. He beats you up over several rounds. I look for Bisping to, start with the boxing and start pressuring Rockhold and trying to get inside and maybe get in with the clinch. But I think Rockhold's going to be way too big for Bisping. He's so big. He's 2 inches taller, but he just looks so much bigger. And I think Rockhold's going to be able to hold him at distance. If it does go to the ground, I think Rockhold's, offensive enough with his jiu-jitsu that, he's gonna be able to, fend off anything that Bisping does and either get back to his feet or, catch Bisping in a sub, man. I don't rule that out as a, possibility of how this fight could finish. So I just don't see any possibility for Bisping to win the fight. I see possibilities for him to, go 5 rounds. He'll be pretty beat up by the time those 5 rounds are over with. But, I don't see any feasible possibility of how he could win this fight in, any way.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something, people. Yeah.
I don't know why that cracks me up.
Making himself laugh before he says anything.
Because I was like thinking to myself, I'm about to cut like a cheesy ass promo. I just threw that
drugs.
But like, yeah, it's like how many times can I do this? But anyway, here we go. Luke Hold versus fuck.
Luke Holt versus. Oh my god.
Luke Hold versus Mizbing.
Right.
Ms. Bing.
The Miz versus Rockhold, dude. It's gonna be an excellent fight. I can't wait to see it. But honestly, like I'm gonna take a different tactic here. I believe in Bisping in this one. Yes, Rockhold is the bigger, like he's like the he's the Gattaca version of Bisping. If you had like a version 2, you would grow Rockhold. Like it is like in some ways a mirror match. Someone was kind of saying that, but I am going to side with Bisping on this one. I believe in him because he has the power of sheer desperation alone, and I mean that in a good way. Like this man has a motivation to fight. He's got his wife and kids. He just moved all the way down here. He knows that any fight he loses, they're just gonna be calling for his retirement. Every time he loses, they're gonna be like, "Hey, you're gonna retire this time." That's embarrassing. It's an indicator. He's tired of it. He went for broke in the last fight. This man went to Kung Lee's, well, sort of territory, home territory. It's close enough, you know what I'm saying? But he went there and he faced this man, knowing fully well and expecting Kung Lee to be roided out of his goddamn mind and just a monster. All right? Bisping stepped up and he was throwing and fighting like he didn't give a shit. Like, that was a good sign. This man is fighting like he has something to lose, and he knows it. Luke Rockhold, I don't believe he knows that. I think he's just a playboy. He's too busy cradling, tiger balls, playing around, sipping on coconuts, going on honeymoons, Instagramming. Michael Bisping's doing the work he knows. The word on the street is he's blind in one eye. Like totally blind in one fucking eye and still fighting, all right? That's the deep word on the street that nobody's ever going to fucking tell you or even ask him, all right? And so I got to give it to Mike Bisping. He has more motivation to win this fight. I believe he'll do it. I think he whoops Rockhold's ass. It's going to be tough. He's going to get fucked up. But shit, you saw what happened to Kung Lee's face, man. You got to believe that has Rockhold scared. So I'm going to bet on Bisping. I believe in him. And I think he's still got a little bit left, man. And he's got nothing left to lose except everything. But you know what I'm saying. Word on the street.
Word on the street. And for those interested in the fight odds, visit bestfightodds.com. Currently, as far as the main card goes, Soa Palele, Clint Hester, and Ross Pearson, all favorites at minus 165. Luke Rockhold, a big favorite, minus 485 against Mike Bisping's plus 350. Look, I think Mike has a chance. You know, the guy's got good boxing. Whether he has one or two eyes, he can catch you at any point. But I think Rockhold is going to keep his distance standing up. If it goes to the mat, in my eyes, he has an obvious advantage. I think this is Luke's fight to lose, and I think he wins it. And I think after he wins it, he's maybe one more win away from a title fight. Shit, he might even get a title fight after that win. We'll see what fizzles out at middleweight with Chris coming back from injury. Changing gears here, we'll move one night ahead, November 8th, Saturday night, to the Fight Night card in Brazil. The main card's going to be on Fox Sports 1, the prelims on Fox Sports 2, and two fights on Fight Pass. We got Tim Gorman and Wagner Silva both fighting on the Fight Pass card. We got Diego Lima, the brother of Douglas Lima, Charlie Brenneman, Claudio Silva, Magalhães, all on Fox Sports 2. And moving up to Fox Sports 1, we have a strawweight women's fight between Juliana Lima and Nina Insaroff. Worley Alves taking on Alan Juban. Ian McCall taking on John Lineker in OSP. Oven St. Preux taking on Francimar Barroso. Ian McCall sort of standing out recently. I'm not sure when he said it, but the last couple of days, I think he said, I'm looking up the quote now, apologies for not having it in front of me. He said, quote, "No one gives a shit about flyweights because Demetrius Johnson has the personality of my coffee mug." So he's, I guess, trying to make waves to maybe earn himself a title shot. A win over John Lineker would definitely be make a lot more waves than a silly quote, but it could honestly earn him a title shot now that Johnson has fought almost everyone at flyweight. And Ian, probably in that first fight he had with Mighty Mouse, is the toughest test that Johnson has gotten at 125. What fights, Chris? I'll throw it to you first. Again, both of us actually interviewed Ian McCall about 2 years ago. He's fighting a bunch of other fights. What's standing out to you? Brenneman as well. He I think was on our second episode or some shit.
That son of a bitch, Ian McCall, never took us up on that facial grooming YouTube series that he said he, and I quote, totally would.
Yeah.
He never did that for some reason. Yeah. And as far as, flyweights fighting Demetrius, there's one guy you're forgetting. I got to do a shout out to my boy, the Eagle, Alan over here, Kyoji Horiguchi.
Shout out.
Kyoji Horiguchi. I think that's the dude's name. It's the little flyweight guy who's been making waves. That's another interesting guy down the line to face for the 125-pound strap. But as far as this card goes, Brenneman, I'm not excited for him, man. Honestly, we interviewed him, so I got to support him a little bit, but he was boring as shit, got to admit that. And
my favorite flavor of ice cream is vanilla. No shit.
Yeah, that's incredible. What are you doing right now? I'm eating wings. Oh, hot wings? No, they're like Italian dressing seasoned wings.
I'm traveling to a restaurant to eat chicken wings with Italian dressing on them. All right.
Oh, great. This is fantastic radio. Yeah.
Thanks to Charlie for being on the show.
Yeah. He honestly,
hell of a guy.
It's never old seeing him getting hit so hard that his hair flops around and he hits the deck. That's great. So moving past that, Alan Jobon, he's a 10th Planet Eddie Bravo guy who actually trains his striking at Black House. So I think he's a real interesting dude. I mean, male model. He was a football player, a soccer player in high school.
Louisiana.
Yeah, there you go. He's got a chiseled jaw, just like Alan. Nice chiseled jaw. Probably has a huge wang, just like Alan, too.
Giant, just thick. More thick than anything else.
Yeah. So, I root for the guy. His last fight was a barn burner. I think it was Basinski. He knocked him out cold. That was a great fight.
Basinski, yeah.
Yeah, and then Lineker versus McCall is really interesting because that would be a 3-fight win streak for McCall, and then it would make Lineker 4-1 in his last 5, which, for either guy, it's like, okay, let's give him a title shot. I honestly think that Lineker doesn't have anything for Demetrius Johnson. That dude, when he throws punches, he starts his punches from behind his back, dude. He's winding up shots. I don't see anything out of the guy that says he could take Demetrius, but at least it's someone new. Obviously, the main event, got to root for Old Man Shogun. Other than that, I'm not really seeing a lot here that I care about, man. OSP, boring. Maybe the Lima brother?
Diego Lima fighting on Fox Sports 2, taking on, who's he taking on? Powell-Lek.
A very ugly man.
Yeah, not the prettiest pole. Wow, I didn't realize how gay that sounded until after I said it. Alan, let's take it back out of the gutter. What fights other than the main event, Manuwa versus Shogun, stand out to you? The prettiest pole. Jesus Christ. Alan, are you still there?
We scared him off, dude. All the comments about his wang.
All this gay shit scared Alan off. There he is.
Yeah. Peace out. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
See ya, Alan.
Later, Alan. Say hi
right.
to the other Alan for me.
Okay. I guess he had to go. I'll keep it real short on my end. The only fight I give a damn about is the one where it's Vinny Magalhaes' cousin that looks like he has Down syndrome. I'll watch that fight and I hope he wins.
Vinny Magalhaes' Down syndrome cousin. Alan, any thoughts before we move on and actually just skip you?
Alan Jubin, just because his name's Alan. He's from Louisiana. And Chris has seen his and my Wang.
Hot takes.
I
Moving
saw
on
it before
to
Caraway, buddy.
the main event, Shogun Hua taking on Jimmy Manuwa. This is a fight, man. It's pretty close. Both guys are minus 120 in Vegas, so a literal dead heat. You have the younger guy in Manuwa. You have the very, very experienced vet in Shogun Hua. I honestly, man, I don't know which way to fall, but this is going to be a really exciting fight, Chris.
In the words of the great Ramses, this is a layup fight. This is a layup fight for Shogun, just like Tahuna was. Manuwa's no joke. I mean, he looks great blasting out guys like Kingsbury, and Ryan Jimmo, but I think Hua's just on a whole nother level, even with bum knees, and he's like 50 years old. I still think Hua takes him out in one round.
Wow.
Dude, how
Alan?
old is Shogun?
Um,
Like 33, 34?
I don't know if he's
Fight
that.
years,
He's like
200.
22.
Yeah, in fight years, the guy is like 55, but actually he's only 32. He was born in the 80s. Not much
Holy
older than
shit,
you, Alan.
he's only 2 years older than me.
That's my age.
Man, like all these size mismatches for Shogun, and he's still able to pull it off. But Manuwa's just like a mammoth, like a big old dude. Man, I want to say Shogun just knocks him out, but I don't know, man. Like part of me's telling me that Manuwa's got a really good shot in this, just because it's a really good matchup for him as far as like physical. But you know what? I'm gonna go with Shogun. I'm gonna say Shogun finishes Manuwa just like Gustafsson did. Fuck it.
To quote Chris in the group chat, Manuwa's pectorals piss me off. They look like Michael Jai White tore his off and slapped him on Manuwa. Can you elaborate on this for us at all?
I don't like him, man. There's something about them. They just look like they don't belong there.
Hot takes. Ramses.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Devolve.
Ramses, give us the last hot take of the night before we send this out to the internet.
Yeah, this is one of those things where at first glance, Shogun versus Manuwa happening in Brazil. You're like, oh, well, it's a main event. Of course they're going to work it so that Shogun wins. But I honestly believe, having analyzed this, I think the UFC is ready to burn Shogun. I think he is going to get knocked out in almost unbelievable, ridiculous fashion, alarming fashion by Manuwa. I think he's going to get two-pieced. I think people are going to actually believe that he has died for a moment or two watching this fight happen. 5 rounds. Give me a goddamn break. This ain't going 5 rounds, people. Shogun, like you reported here, he's 42 years old. Manuwa's 18?
32.
It's ridiculous,
Manuwa
man.
he's 17 years old.
He is A minor.
Manuwa's actually older than Shogun.
Yeah,
Yep.
Manuwa's 34, Shogun's 32.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter. This
But
is already...
fight age, Manuwa's in his 20s and Hua's in his 50s.
If this fight were happening at your local bar, who would you bet on? You bet on the big black guy every time. I'm not being racist here. I'm just saying you don't want the guy that's showing up there with a pudgy belly, like the trademark Shogun shit that we see every fight. He's going to show up with it this time, and it ain't going to work. It's going to be embarrassing. This is going to be the end. I think the UFC is ready to burn Shogun. I think this will be his swan song. People demand his retirement. They're burning his name just one last time. Just milk this event for whatever they can, because Brazil is suffering. Like I said, stars are in decline this year. It's a rebuilding year for the UFC. But it's like when you ever get drunk and start a wildfire in California, you got to purge the old so that the new can take over. And that's what the UFC is doing to Shogun. Word on the street.
That's a hot take we're in it with. Thank you so much for tuning in to the 109th edition of the MMA Podcast. Chris, where do we find you on the Twitters?
You can find me perusing the internet, slinking around like a snake. Don't follow me. Follow Ramsey's at The Aunt Jimmy Show.
That's right. Alan, what about you, cocksucker?
Catch me, Westland Eagle H, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
That's right. Follow our friends at Ross Finkelstein, at MMA Mental, at Yeah The Truth. You know what? The man's on fire tonight. I'm not even gonna say another word on tonight's show. I'm gonna let Ramses send it out. Ramses, send it out for us, man.
Thank you for listening to the MMA Podcast, brought to you by Jake from the MMA Podcast. Follow him on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Follow Chris. Follow the Eagle. Follow me on Twitter, The Aunt Jimmy Show. I am the word on the street. I'm bringing you the latest UFC rumors and news and speculations before it even happens. How many times have I been right? Ask your friends. How many times have I been proven right? And how many times have I been wrong? Can name one time off the top of your head right now, anybody? I challenge you before we go off the air. You can't. Sorry, people. This is an honor to be on your show, Jake from the MMA Podcast. Tune in next time. Listen to Chael's podcast. It's out in a few hours with GSP. Listen to The Word in the Street on Thursday, produced by Jake. I can't thank you enough. And honestly, people, God bless you. I hope you find God before it's too late, because otherwise you will burn in hell. That's an absolute fact, and I don't feel bad about that, but because I'm doing everything I can to spread the word on the street. If you haven't picked it up yet, the word on the street isn't just about MMA. It's code. I'm actually talking about the Bible, and that's the bottom line. Good night.
Somebody go get that weak stick. Beat him up, break his neck, beat him up, break his neck, beat him up, break his neck, beat him up, break his neck.
Suck your dick.
See, I'm a hard hitter, one hitter, quitter. Step up to me, look bloody. You stepping up to a gorilla. I bang your head down to your head like egg dog. Don't think I'm scared, dog. I live in red, dog. Somebody go get their ass kicked. Somebody go get their wing split. Somebody go get their ass kicked. Somebody go get their wing split. Beat him up, break his neck, beat him up, break his neck,
Suck your dick.
beat him up, break his neck, beat him up, break his neck,
Feed 'em off.